This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Mike, we're back on Sunday this weekend. I feel like we go back and forth, but we're not going to be going live on Thursdays anymore because I'm starting league next week. So we'll have to figure out a day and time. But the NFL starts on Sundays, so we're going to have to try to find a slot to go through. But yeah, I mean, we moved till Sunday because of the tour trials this week. We figured, like, why go live on a Thursday when they were going to be finishing up that Friday? So we moved it to see what the finals were so we could talk and get a good review of it, you know?
No doubt. And I think the ending anyway is worth reviewing, the result certainly is worth talking about, and worth, discussing not only in terms of what the results were and who made it, but also in terms of what those results are going to mean next year, right? Because the guys who made it, the reality is, Rob, like, they're waiting 6 months plus to go and start this journey, right? So the tour trials was now, but they're not going to start bowling until like January. Obviously we don't know the schedule just yet, but traditionally like mid to late January. So, I mean, on the good side, it gives them time to prep and practice and get ready and prepare. But at the same time, it is going to be a long break between when they have qualified for this opportunity and when they actually get to partake in this opportunity. But it was really good action though.
Yeah, especially the last like two games. I feel like if you didn't get a chance to watch the 46, I don't think really a lot of people watched every game, but I feel like the last day and the last two games especially is probably the most entertaining part of that format. Just because it literally all those games and all that work those guys are putting in comes down to, really finishing top 12. Now, if you're lucky to be like Tim, you're lucky to be like, some of those guys like Brandon and Hayden, you're just kind of on cruise control the last few games, trying not to bowl like, I don't know, like
150,
injuring yourself, I guess, or something, but you could probably even kick the ball down the lane.
Well, it depends, how many games you're talking about. I mean, the last 6 games, you still got some pressure on you. You can't go out and completely lay an egg. I mean, there was a lot of roller coastering in the standings as I was checking them day to day. But yeah, I agree, Rob. I didn't watch much until that last day, and then the last block I watched the whole thing. And yeah, I think in the first few games it was a little bit dull, just because it was hard to follow who the people were that were in the running at that time and what the exact situations were. But
I think
when it came down to that last game,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, you want crunch time bowling action. That was all you could handle. But once we saw the results, we reached out to Tim Foy because we had discussed on the pod here last week some of the results that we expected. And when we came across Tim's name, we were both like, dog, like, this dude's making it. Like, and you know what? Bet Rivers didn't come through for me on getting the bets posted early enough for me to put a parlay in. But no doubt that Tim Foy would have been involved in some of the parlays that I was planning on putting in there. I never checked back with Bet Rivers throughout the week to see if they ever posted the odds on various rounds. Somebody did hit me up on Twitter and say that they eventually did. I'll be honest, I wasn't really interested in betting round the round. I was only interested in betting who's going to make it, who's not.
Like features, right?
Yeah, I had some people I liked and some people I didn't, so I didn't get that opportunity. But like I said, if I was able to get that bet in, Tim Foy undoubtedly would have been one of the names that appeared on more than one of my tickets. So
yeah,
he's also the high righty at Tour Trial. So
Let's go.
sweep the rack, bro. We got love for the righties around here. I ain't gonna say nothing about the lefty. I ain't gonna throw no hate out there, but we got the high righty for all of you here. Okay.
But before we bring Tim on, because Tim's going to be on tonight, talk to us. I think we can relate to Tim in an East Coast way, right? He's from the East Coast, but like the guys when you grew up with bowling on the East Coast, the guys that like were if you bowled them, they were out for your throat in a way, right? Like the guys that you were like, man, like they're not going to say no to anybody to bowl at any time, and we don't know Tim, right? But I think that's what I get at it. Like Tim watching him bowls, like, man, this guy's he ain't gonna step down from anybody on the lanes, and when he does bowl you, it's gonna be a match regardless of who you are. So let's on that note, let's bring Tim on. Let's talk to Tim, see how he's feeling, see if he's over partying. Because if that was me, I'd be partying for like 3 days. I'd have bottle service. I'd have women. I would be all kinds of craziness going on with me. I would have been on an even interview Sunday, Mike. It would have been like Wednesday when I would have woke up, But anyway, all right, let's bring on Tim, see if he's done partying. Hey, Tim, what's happening, man? Welcome to Sweep the Rack.
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Tim, how's it going, bro? Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
No doubt. So I guess the first thing we should get into is the actual tour trials and some of the bowling aspect of it. So the question I'll ask is, you had 4 days, 48 games, 4 different centers, 4 different patterns. Did you have a game plan going in, and how much did you stick or not stick to that game plan throughout the tournament to end up where you were?
So the morning block, you kind of look at the graph, and you kind of be like, all right, these are the options I think are in play. So naturally, practice session, you bring in, like, I had 30 bowling balls in my truck. I said I'd rather have extras and not need them than wish I brought them. So like, yeah, I would bring 15 to 18 in a day, and the beginning of practice, you'd be like, these are the core balls that I think I'm gonna try. And we had 13 minutes to figure it out. Luckily, I was able to guess right. I mean, some of the patterns are self-explanatory. 35 feet, we do your thing. And then you had a better game plan for the night block because you just bowled 6 games on it. So it was more or less like the first game or two, maybe survive and then hit them. But I was fortunate enough that I was able to kind of get it going from game 1. So you definitely had a game plan, but anytime you bowl there, you guys know your game plan goes away real quick.
So I'm ignorant on the schedule here. Was there practice before the event started on all 4 patterns or no?
Nope. You got 13 minutes practice right before you showed up. That was it.
Wow. I didn't know that.
It made sense. I mean, trying to put out 4, that'd be a logistical nightmare trying to do a practice session.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the other day, like, I wonder what the practice session for this was like. Like, did they go to 4 different bowling alleys over 2 different blocks of time in the day? So it does make sense that they didn't run it. But okay, that makes it a lot harder. That makes it a lot tougher. I saw that Brands of Brunswick had at least one of their ball reps there. Were they really helpful for you guys in terms of coming up with a game plan for things, making sure you were getting yourself in the right equipment, or was it more most of the players on their own out there?
Both. A lot of the players are definitely on their own, but then you also had your reps to help you out. Luckily for me, I also had my buddy Eric Krause came down. So he's a longtime friend of mine and stuff like that. So he came down. So I was fortunate enough that I had 2 people willing to help. So that helps a lot. And then, you're on your own, but the reps definitely do help. There were some decisions that they made that I never would have thought of, that I felt put me in the right position to be in the place I was the last day. The one day I was throwing a rattler new from Fifth Arrow, and during the lunch break, they were like, hey, we should try this late in the block. And I looked at them like they were nuts, because I'm like, who would ever think to throw a rattler new from Fifth Arrow? But I ended up bowling 280 with it. Just little stuff like that makes a big difference.
Okay. How's this going to change things for you? So, first we should tell people the reason that I know dude is a dog is because, no offense, look at him. He's a little skinny guy, and dude is a prison guard. So somebody who works in that environment right, and doesn't have the physical dominant stature, they got some dog in them. So how does this change things for you, bro? Like, are you going to continue to work and then stop in January? Or are you going to give it up now and kind of focus on preparing? Or is this not enough to quit a job? Or are you going to put the job on the side and try and do both at the same time? I was interested to ask this, not just of you, but of all the players. But I think you're one of the few guys that is a little bit older and more established in life, whereas a lot of the kids that made it, the younger guys that made it, they're out of college. This was their plan. Where to you, I would imagine if you didn't make the top 12 here, the plan was go back to work and work your job and bowl as you have up to this point.
So exactly. So fortunate for me is the schedule is kind of condensed, so that makes it easier for someone like me to be able to go bowl. I mean, we only bowl like 3 months of the year roughly, and it's in the time frame where at my job nobody wants off. So I'm fortunate. I'll work some overtime between now and then to build up my comp time so I can take off. I mean, when they went back to the exempt tour, I was actually exempt the first year they went back to the exempt tour. I was actually exempt that 1 year, and I ended up losing my exemption that year, and I haven't been able to gain it back till this year. But I'll do it like I normally do, just work a bunch of overtime in front of it so I can build up my comp time to take off. And then, yeah, that's basically how I'd be able to do it. If there was a summer tour, that would be a lot tougher. But because it's February, March, April, and at my job, nobody really wants off. Everyone wants off in the summertime. So it kind of plays to my advantage. So I can, quote unquote, double dip.
Okay, cool. So your plan then going forward is keep the job, stay with your full-time job, and then when the tour season comes around, you're going to do that full-time.
Yeah, because I won't even miss a check at work. I won't miss a single check. Even if I bowl bad, I'll still never miss a check because I'll still get paid from work. So it's kind of double dipping, I guess, in a way for a short period of time.
Tim, I mean, you got to imagine that's like, I mean, a really smart way to do it. Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine being on tour and a lot more pressure if that's your only check that you're relying on, and you have to support family, kids, bills, right? And you have to strike in order to like. So I feel like that's, in my opinion, a really smart game plan. It frees up the swing as like what they would say. So that's pretty cool.
And Rob, I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, like whether people are aware or not. If you've listened for a while, you should be aware. A lot of these guys that bowl on tour have jobs.
Yep.
A lot of these guys have businesses they run and stuff. So like, it's few and far between the bowlers that don't have that second stream of income coming in from some other source. And I mean, even some of the more well-established guys like your EJ Tackett's. I mean, you see, he was on the show. He talked about getting in the bowling business and owning a bowling center and trying to make money off of that too. So like, in this day and age, unfortunately, unless something changes and these guys start bowling for a lot more money, that's I almost feel like that's sort of a necessity. But I'm going to ask this question anyway. How many major wins would it take over the next year or two for Tim Foy to say, I'm giving up the other job and we're full-time bowler now?
Never. Well, no, I retire.
Really?
I retire in 7 years. 7 years I can retire from my job.
All right, so you got the time in. Okay. All right.
Better
so
chance.
That's a factor too.
I'd win the lottery first before I do that.
Okay. All right. No doubt.
I like it. Retirement though, 45, retire, get a nice pension, everything, and then bowl full time, right?
That's the goal, is to retire in 7 years and then have all my ducks in a row so I can retire and then kind of live the life that you dreamed of. Like that. I do want to bowl. I already own a pro shop, so I'm hopefully I'll own a couple more in that time frame. And that's
you own a pro shop too?
It's a small one in my local community. There's a small one. They have 16 lanes, 100 league bowlers maybe, but I'm able to give back and help out the local bowlers and stuff like that. So yeah, I got a little shop. It's nothing massive, nothing major, but it's still something. It works. Right. It's something. It works.
Grinding, man. Out here grinding.
What bowling center?
Chop Tank Bowling and Billiards.
Okay.
Right in Cambridge. It's a small one. They just won they won a BPAA grant for like $100,000, and then they were able to reopen. So they got a nice pool hall. It's really nice center now. Really nice.
Okay. Shout out your shop. What's the name of it?
Snap It Off Pro Shop, baby.
Okay. All right, no doubt.
Dude, that's gonna be. He's gonna have a line around the block now, man. After he's
Yeah,
on this show.
well, I was going to say, if you're in that area, if you're in the Delaware area, definitely go check Tim out. I mean, obviously, he's making good decisions for himself. He could probably help you out with the hacks that listen to this show anyway. So as I mentioned, from Delaware, right? Your shop's in Delaware, bowling centers in Delaware. I know you bowl locally at Middletown because we were down. I was down at Middletown watching you when you made your run to the show. Thanks, by the way. Hit a parlay, hit a couple big parlays that involved you that weekend. So that was a really good weekend for me. Appreciate that.
I was watching
so.
it too.
Okay, all right, no doubt. Okay, so like we're East Coast guys, right? Rob's an East Coast guy. I'm an East Coast guy. You before you came on, you said you're 37, right? I'm 44. Rob's what 44 as well, Rob.
43. I'm 43. I'm younger than you.
Sorry, Rob. A couple other guys in our circle are around that age, right? Early 40. So you're sort of in that same age range as us, and we talked about some, just some common names that we knew from back in the day from Delaware that you said that you knew. So, I only comment on this from a perspective of us being around the same age range and knowing a lot of the similar people. I really didn't. I never heard your name as a younger bowler until you started really bowling on tour, and I remember seeing your name on tour, and I thought, who the hell is this guy? Tim Foy. I never heard him. He's from Delaware. I'd never seen him in a tournament before in my life. Never heard of him before in my life. So tell the people, how'd you get started in the game and how'd you get to the point you are now? Because Rob and I know it wasn't really from bowling the junior circuit or bowling a lot of the local amateur stuff that we may have bowled at a certain time. So give us a rundown.
So my parents bowled like 5 leagues a week, it felt like. My dad grew up in Howell, bowled with Parker and Mark Roth and all them growing up. So bowling's actually been in my blood, and growing up, that's all I wanted to do. But out of school, I thought I can do it. I went and bowled like a couple PBA events and got my teeth kicked in and realized like this ain't for me. And then so I just went and got a real job and all that kind of stuff. Like I bowled juniors, I won 1 JVT, bowled like a couple of local adults, but I wasn't ready. I didn't start traveling until I was ready. And then it wasn't until like the last 8 to 10 years I started to travel a little more, and I started to get my name out there a little bit. And then it wasn't, things for me haven't started clicking really. They clicked a little bit before COVID, but one big change I made during COVID was I took my thumb out. Belmo told me for years to take my thumb out. So I finally took my thumb out during COVID because I was like, it's the perfect time. I was fortunate enough. I was able to practice some during COVID a couple of times, even though everything was shut down. So I was fortunate. And then, man, ever since I took my thumb out, things have just been clicking. I mean, I've been on 2 shows now, 1 in Eagle, got 5 regionals, now exempt again. So yeah, things are just, and it's been within the last year or two that it's really clicked the most.
And all of those accomplishments have come after you took your thumb out.
Yeah, I won 2 regionals with my thumb in.
Okay.
And I made a run to the top 10 at the Masters in 2016.
Right.
With my thumb in, but other than that, it's ever since I took my thumb out, it's been a massive change.
Okay, and you mentioned before we came on that you've been two-handed your whole life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. My whole life.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Like, had I seen you around, had we seen you around bowling juniors, that would have made an impression on us.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I still remember the kid's name who we first saw bowl two-handed, and we mentioned his name on here, Chad Hopple, and he reached out to us. He actually emailed us and was like, "Oh, I heard you mention my name. That's pretty cool." And yeah, honestly, Tim, you know what we did? And at that time, I mean, we were some of the best bowlers in the whole Northeast section of the country. We made fun of him.
Right.
He beat us up. He beat up on us all day up at ABC West or ABC East, I forget which one it was. And he beat up on us all day, and we did nothing but make fun of him on the way home. And
beat
to
up
this
on Mike.
day,
all right, he beat up on Mike.
He beat up on everybody. What are you talking about?
No,
he set a record that day, you dope. He set a 5-game record that day. He beat everybody.
I was a dog back. No.
Yeah. Okay. So
beat
so
on
he
you,
beat
not
up
me.
on everybody, and we laughed at him. And I say to this day, like, we should have went home and done what he was doing. How did you get into the two-handed style? Was it just a natural thing for you, or?
Yeah, I think that's all it was. I mean, I've never been a big stature, so I think I just started at a young age doing it. And my parents probably like, he's little. I was 5. He's little. He'll just grow out of it. And I mean, I think I bowled like my first 200 at 8. I think I was averaging 200 by the time I was 11. So it just kind of, I guess at that moment, they're like, can't fix what's not broken.
Okay. And when did you mentioned that you bowled a lot of leagues and, you bowled some tournaments, you knew you weren't ready. Like, how did you get ready? Because like bowling in leagues and getting to the level of being able to bowl on the types of conditions and more demanding stuff that's out there, even on the regional tour, so, is not easy. So what did that process look like for you?
Work hard. And then I was willing to go get my teeth kicked in. I feel like you got to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win. And then, like, I went and got the experiences that I needed to try to get better. Like Parker told me one day, like, you have to move up the ranks. You have to be one of your better bowlers in your league. So once I did that, I started bowling tournaments. Once I felt like I became one of the better bowlers in tournaments, then I started bowling regionals. Got my lumps there for a little bit, and now I became one of the better regional bowlers in the area. So now I got my lumps kicked in on the national tour. So now I'm hoping to make the next step in the national level. And just do it little by little.
Okay,
Mike, I'm still in that getting my teeth kicked in phase. I've been in that phase since I was 18. Not saying more like 21. I'm 43 now, so I hear you, Tim. So I'm looking forward to the next step after the teeth getting kicked in. But I've been in that for way too long. So let me ask you now. We talked. Obviously, it's going to be a big gap, right, from when now to like when the tour starts. Preparation for the tour. Is there anything you're going to be doing different? I mean, have you thought about try to new ways to prepare? I mean, you're going up against, I mean, which you have experience already. You've made shows, whatever, bowling full time against guys like EJ Tackett, Simonson, O'Neill. I mean, these guys are on a whole level that's, we always talk about how much of a difference level the top 5 or 10 are compared to a lot of the other guys out there. Mm-hmm. How do you prepare yourself, or is it just going to be kind of business as usual?
I mean, you got to prepare. I mean, you got to be able to play every part of the lane. So I'll start getting back into the bowling alley. I'll take a little bit off, work for a little bit, and then probably about 4 months before we get ready to kick the season off, I'll definitely get back into the lanes and get really working hard. There's certain parts of the lane that I know I'm good at, and there's certain part of the lanes that I struggle. Like, I'm not afraid to admit it. Like, getting from the ball return is not one of my fortes. I'm not 22, 23 no more. I'm 37. I'm probably one of the old guys out there now, it feels like. So it will be probably getting back into the gym, getting certain parts stronger just so I can get in front of the ball return a little better, because that is one part of my game that I know I struggle with, and that is one part of the game that you have to have on tour. So I know that's one part that I'm really going to work on.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you on that front of it, because I've always found it hard to be able to actually be able to practice getting in front of the ball return. The only time I've ever really been able to successfully play in front of the ball return is when I've actually had to do it competitively. It's hard to just put out patterns or to replicate like what Sloan was doing, right, in the last 2 games. So how do you practice that? And I'd be curious to understand that, because to me it's like you have to just bowl tournaments that in order for you to really get the practice you need, or can you?
So, I mean, for me, it's mainly just in front of the ball return. So for me, it'll be kind of figuring out how to gain ball speed. I think once I can figure out how to get my ball speed up and like the timing issue of it, because I rely so heavy on my legs to get my ball speed. So like on the left lanes and stuff, I can loft it. That part doesn't really bother me. It's the front of the ball return. So it's more or less it's figuring out the timing of the swing and all that kind of stuff to get it in the right rhythm. Because right now, when I do get in front of the ball return, like I can do it on longer patterns because my ball speed goes down. But some of the other patterns, you need the ball speed up. So it's just figure out how to get that ball speed up. Once I figure that out, I think the rest will fall into place.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a part of the game that it seems to be pretty normal now, especially with the lane surfaces the way they've been and the performance balls. So Mike's highlighting all the comments and people supporting you. Tim, you're
much love out there, bro.
Fan favorite for sure. Flanagan's even in the chat.
Flanagan, Black Cloud.
Yeah, a lot of love out there.
Flanagan's he's your Black Cloud, Flanagan.
Oh my God, is he?
Really? Well, Big Mike is everybody's cloud. So
yeah, you don't want me betting on you. You don't want me betting on you like that. I mean, you making the show in Delaware was even more impressive to me because I knew that I bet on you. So I was like, wow, not only did he overcome all this other stuff, but he overcame me trying to Black Cloud him by betting on him and standing in the back and watching. Oh my God, that's unbelievable. Go ahead, Rob.
I want to ask him. Have you thought about goal setting for next year on tour? Like, have you thought about what is going to be a successful season, or do you plan on sitting down and making some goals for yourself? And what would you consider being a successful 2025 season?
I want to make another show. I want to prove Delaware wasn't a fluke. Ideally, I want to win. 100%, I want to win. I believe I can win. That's why I went on both tour trials. If I didn't think I could win on tour, I never would have showed up to trials. So I thoroughly and 100% believe I can win on tour. So ultimately, that's the goal. But I would love, but to do that, you got to make another show. So ideally, I want to make another show just to prove Delaware wasn't a fluke to myself. I mean, I technically have 2 shows, but the first one doesn't count for me because I only got it because I was a fill-in. So
we remember around here. That's our guy, so we definitely remember. But no, I mean, listen, I think that's admirable. You know, I definitely think that's admirable. But the ultimate goal, though, if they're going to stick with the exempt status, has to be to bowl well enough to remain exempt.
Absolutely.
Whether you make a show, I mean, if the end of the season comes next year and you're exempt but you didn't make a show, you got to be happy with that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You'll be happy with
Okay.
that. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, you got you know, you definitely want to, if they're going to keep the same format, you definitely want to try and avoid the grind of bowling tour trials again next year, I would imagine.
Tim, I'm gonna say, I always talk about the mental game on this show and not what separates the men from the boys. And just from watching you bowl and watching, like, just in general, I feel like that's a super strength of your game, right? Like, and I feel like that is going to be like what's going to like put you in and what's going to actually, I think you definitely have a better mental game than a lot of guys already out there. I'm going to say it. And I think that's going to end up getting you over the hump. And once you start making shows and then you get comfortable on TV and you start winning, I feel like you're going to be very successful. And I really believe that, Tim. We'll talk about your TV experience, though. I'm trying to remember the first show, right? You got 300 thrown at you, right?
Vi shot 300 on me.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that specifically because I was thinking, Mike, man, if Bill ended up making the show, he would have ended up going 1 and out anyway. And then the second show at the Delaware, what have you learned from your TV experience? How is that different from normal bowling? Like, just in general, how different is that?
Man, you talk about how fast, like you always heard people talk about the shows, they go fast. Like that's one thing Parker told me was they go fast. You don't realize how quick a game is. And man, I remember like I blinked and we were on set practicing. I blinked again, it was commercial break. I'm like, oh my God, EJ threw a 4-bagger on me already. Like it was unbelievable how quick they go. Like if you watch on TV, it doesn't seem as fast, but man, when you're over there, it is different, man. Having people down, because the first time there was no fans, all that kind of stuff, and I was such a last minute fill, and it was such a like thing thrown together for me to get there. Like I didn't have a chance to like be tired, be nervous, all that kind of stuff. But I think being in front of the home crowd made it a little easier, maybe because I was already comfortable in that building. But man, having seen people down the lane, the lights, the shot clock, everything, it was just it was the time of my life. I was nervous beyond belief, but man, I do it again in a heartbeat.
I was there in person. Place was rocking. Was rocking for this guy. I mean, it was loud. They were there for him, and they were not shy about letting anybody know about it. It was cool to see, though. It was awesome. Like as a fan of bowling, it was awesome to be a part of that and like be in the crowd for that and see you interact with the crowd. And obviously things didn't go the way you wanted them, but at that point, you know, they were just showing you so much love. It was just cool to see your interactions with them.
Yeah.
You still bowl league?
Yeah.
You gonna continue to bowl league?
Yeah, I got a couple buddies I bowl league with. Just
okay.
It's in the place where my shop is, so it's kind of a twofer almost, and then it's a night out with the buddies.
Okay. You going to continue to bowl UBA?
I mean, there's a bet with my team. I haven't been playoff eligible for like 3 years. So there's a bet with my UVA team trying to see if I'll be playoff eligible. So we'll see. I mean,
Well,
I try to bowl when I can.
If you do have a great season on the PBA Tour and you show up at Battle Bowl next year, you might be the professional two-hander they're complaining about, whacking them and running them over. Everybody might be upset at you, but that would be a good thing. You'd have some serious dough in your pocket if that's the case.
I wouldn't mind bowling 879 like Simon did.
Sure, no doubt. No doubt. Who wouldn't? But listen, man, we appreciate you taking the time with us and stopping through. As we said last week on the show, dog, bro, like if I wish I would have had the opportunity to bet this week. I really do, because I think I would have done really well. I definitely had more right than I had wrong. Rob, you would have done pretty well too with some of your predictions going into the tour trials. I think the one thing, and we'll talk about this after Tim leaves. We don't want to get him embroiled in any controversial talk, but the one thing we didn't see coming, and we talked about the possibility of it, but we didn't. I don't think I would have been betting this way. Was the domination of the lefties, right? We'll talk about that after. But yeah, listen, great performance, bro. We're both happy for you.
We are. We're in the quarter.
We wish you luck. We'll be watching throughout the season, and just don't get mad at us if you bowl like shit on TV, and I got to come on here and talk about you missing a spare or something like that.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
We got to keep it real around here. We got to keep it real around here, one way or the other. You know this, so we'll take this friendly first interaction, but the next time you hear your name on here, don't hold it against us. But and feel free to stop back. Obviously, feel free to stop back. Tony Rosamilia in the chat say prediction: Tim wins the title this year. We're gonna talk about it after he leaves. Tony, Rob, and I are gonna discuss out of the 12 guys who qualified, who we like next year and who we think could really have an impact. So again, man, shout to you. We know how big this is. Actually, Bill's career started by making tour trials, and you said that you made it through tour trials that same year, because I believe that was the first year they had it.
No, so I think it was right after COVID when they first went back to district exempt status.
Oh, okay, all right. You're talking recently. Okay.
Yeah, recently when they first went back, I was exempt. I think it was 21 or something like that when they first went back to this. I was exempt that year.
I'm going back to
way back.
When they went to the 64. Right.
Yeah.
And it was early 2000s. It was probably 2003 or 4. Bobby Hall. Bobby Hall the third. Yeah, yep. No doubt. Bobby Hall the third. One last question before we get you out of here. We're going to ask you about your sponsors, but one last question before we get out of here. I have to have this discussion with you because I'm a Philly guy and I went to Delaware to bowl a lot. I actually hated the bowling in Delaware. I never had a lot of success in any bowling center in Delaware in my entire bowling life. But who's the best bowler to come out of Delaware?
Jimmy Johnson.
I knew you were going to say it. You see, you're a bowling historian. That tells me you're a bowling historian. Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you there, bro. I mean, he had a long resume of big wins back in the day. And he was so impressive, man. I remember the first time I saw him bowl was at a tournament in Jersey somewhere. And I expected somebody who was just going to throw it like David Ozier or Brian Rowe. I mean, and my man was just so simple and so fundamentally sound and played him so straight and could just get it done. Rob, do you remember Jimmy Johnson?
I do.
From back in the day? Yeah, okay.
I do.
All right.
I remember from the high rollers.
High rollers. No doubt. Absolutely.
One specific, though, super hoinky. I think he fired in 1,000 brackets during a sweeper and just absolutely crowbarred him. And he was yelling at the top of his lungs. I'm pretty sure that was the same Jimmy Johnson.
Willing to bet it was.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I got it.
Is he real estate now? Is he done real estate?
Yeah, I believe he does. Yeah, in
Ohio. Real estate now? Is it the same Jimmy Johnson? I think he owns a real estate company.
I think he does too. Yeah, okay. But I believe it's in Ohio, not in Delaware. I don't think it's in Delaware. So
I appreciate Jimmy Johnson.
I gotta show love to my Delaware people like Don Pyle. Okay,
Scott
Thornton listening. Scott Thornton. I don't even know if Scott Thornton bowls anymore, but Scott Thornton for sure.
I heard he bowls. I was talking with my national group because they all know him, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you probably know Scott." But yeah, I think he's just turned into just league bowler, maybe the local terms and stuff like that. Is I think
the local legend. He turned into local legend, Scott Thorne.
His brother too. His brother was a decent bowler too. Adam Subak. Adam Subak not with us anymore. Lost him way too early. But Adam Subak, great bowler to come out of Delaware. So yeah, definitely familiar with a lot of the Delaware players down there. And I spent a lot of time bowling down there myself. So
if anybody knows Scott Thorne, man, have him reach out. I would love to talk to him, man. We traveled. I stayed at his house numerous times. The kid invented the Skybolt. I don't care, the Storm Skybolt. The kid invented it.
That ball everywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. But Tim, give a shout to the people that are supporting you out there, man.
Obviously, my family back home couldn't do it without my family. And then you got Brunswick, Bowler X, Apparel FX, Genesis, Vice. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. But without my family and without everyone behind me, I couldn't do it. So without them, none of this happens.
That sponsor list is going to grow by the time January rolls around. I know that. I'm sure of that. Also, you're probably going to get an opportunity to bowl the PBA League too, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. So
hopefully.
I'm eligible for the draft. There's 55 of us eligible. So
yeah.
43 43 in the 12. So
that's big too. I'd love to see you in that environment because I know you got that East Coast hype in you. And I would love to see you bowl in that environment where it could come out a little bit more. But again, congratulations, bro. Good luck with the preparation, and we'll definitely have you back at some time during the season.
Absolutely, appreciate you guys.
All right,
Tim, later, bro.
Yep.
See you guys.
So just to follow up, a couple people correcting us in the chat.
Wrong Jimmy. So there's a few Jimmy Johnsons. Not the race car driver.
Tony is saying that the Jimmy that we're discussing passed away a long time ago. I'm sorry to hear that. That. That reminds me of another great bowler from Delaware who passed away, Tom Smith. The guy Tom Smith. He used to bowl all the East Coast events. Like not much to look at, but real good player. Brandon Moon. That was another good player from Delaware. I agree, DJ. I agree a lot with that one. But yeah, I just feel like Philly and Delaware are so close. If you're not from around the East Coast area and you're not familiar, like Philly is only where I lived in Philly was only like 25 minutes from Delaware, from the border. So we would often go to Delaware to bowl events and bowl
JBT had its own conference.
JBT had a conference down that way, right, where we would go to like Bowl-O-Rama, Price Lanes, Blue Hen Lanes. I'm trying to think. There were a couple others too that I'm not remembering now. But
see, I'm talking a different Jimmy Johnson. That's Tony's right. I was talking about the Don Johnson's son, who's the guy who used to bowl the Super Bowl.
Do they look a lot alike? Because I've seen the other Jimmy Johnsons.
A lot of
social media thing, and it looks just like the one that I was talking about anyway. But nonetheless,
thanks, Tony, for correcting me. I don't want to have the wrong Jimmy Johnson. I don't want to get that.
I don't want to get my Delaware bowling history wrong. So please, but yeah, listen, great to have Tim on. Great performance by him. We'll be following him throughout the season, obviously, because we stay on top of everything. So we'll definitely be checking back in, not only on him but on the other guys who made it through tour trials as well. Shout to him, though. Shout to him. High rating. High rating tour trials. As I said during the interview, I wish I would have been able to bet. I do, because I definitely would have had multiple parlays with him involved in it, and I feel like I probably would have hit one. If not more.
I think we would have had a few. I'd have had a good few future odds.
Yeah, you had a real good pick in Nathan Bohr.
Yeah,
you had a real good pick in Nathan Bohr. I flamed you for that pick. I'm going to stand up to that. I know you want to come on and gloat tonight, so gloat if you want. But I'm gonna stand. I'll stand on that. You had that pick. You picked Nathan Bohr. I didn't think he had it in him to make it. The guy I looked at was Williams Fenson. That's who I thought was gonna run him over, but that didn't materialize either. So.
And then didn't you talk? Even you said Pontus was going to beat Nathan.
No, I might have. I thought it was Williams Fenson that I.
No,
was
you talked about Pontus.
On, you
were on the Pontus wagon.
He was close too, though. He was close.
He was close.
He was right there.
So let's go down, and I'm going to read out the top 12 who did make it. Okay. So if anybody's not up to date, I like to keep all of our fans up to date on the 12 that did make it. Hayden Stipich. I'm saying that right? Is it Stipich or Stipich? Stipich led both the PTQ and the regular event. He did. He led the PT. He led both, which is incredible to me. Not because he had to bowl 12 more games prior, I believe. Right? Was the PTQ?
Is there anything to be gathered from that?
They bowled in 4 different centers. I'm not sure where the PTQ qualifying was. I'm assuming it's in one of the same centers they bowled, but you can't call it like a one house fluke either. Like, you know how some people just match up in the one bowling center, right? Like if the World Series is a good example of that. When one bowler dominates the World Series, you say, oh well, they must have liked that bowling center or they must have matched up. But that was the beauty of the format, is the fact that it was in 4 different centers. So you really can't say, oh well, he just looked good in that one center. He beat everybody in 4 different centers. So regardless, lefty, righty, two-handed, kicking it, whatever, right?
Urethane, no urethane.
Urethane, no urethane. I don't care. Like he's still well led, and that's amazing to lead both PTQ and the 48 game, right? So
agreed.
Brandon Runk, who had an amazing week too, 300s, I think he shot.
I saw
second.
I saw something on Beef and Barnsley this week. I tuned in to one of their episodes where Beef was talking about tour trials, and somebody commented that at one point this week, 15% of Brandon Runk's games were 300. I was like, that's such a sick way of looking at things.
It is. All right, so Brandon Runk, and then obviously Tim Foy finished third. Nate Purchase, who we talked about last week, right? We both were on the Nate Purchase train, right? Young kid.
We were both on the Nate Purchase train, very much so.
The kid has the potential to be one of an amazing bowler. Youth, I think he's got to get his head game a little bit more in check, right? I think he tends to, a little bit.
Yeah, my concern with Nate Purchase a little bit was the spare shooting, like I mentioned last week, over the 48 games, because I've bet on him a couple times throughout the season, and he burned me with missed spares in a couple instances. So, but yeah, obviously he was able to lock it down.
He'll correct that. Young kid, bowls probably, I believe at this time, bowls full time, I would imagine, right? Spare shooting is something with just practice and repetition you could correct.
Yeah, he also said something in an article somewhere. I forget exactly where I saw it. It might have been 11th Frame with Jeff. It might have been on the PBA website. I forget exactly where it was, but he Purchase basically commented about his own mental struggles out there, and just the fact that he had a lot of mental struggles, and he really worked hard to try and calm down and have a better mental approach. And like we all know, that can improve your spare shooting in and of itself. Because like if you leave a 10 pin and you get so fried out, you're ready to rip your shirt off, you're going to go up and miss one every once in a while because you're unfocused and you're too stuck in the moment of emotions about leaving it. Right.
Well,
so
if your mental game isn't strong, it gives you more tendency to have the yips when you shoot spares. True. Right? Which we all have. I mean, you talk about it every week on your league review, like you miss spares, and I miss spares, right?
On sports stuff, yes. On house stuff, I don't really miss spares.
Yeah, but in general though, like you could have the yips regardless if you're not strong enough mentally, and you have to be able to make single pin spares at a 95% and higher ranking, right?
Yeah,
90% isn't going to really cut it.
I read this too. Brian Ducey's bringing this up. I read this too. It's also true that the previous spare ball he was using had no holes in it.
Yeah, you know why, right?
No.
Yeah, because of resale value. Because you could just sell your ball as a blank after throwing it for 50 games with no holes. Put a resurf.
That was one of the wildest things I read was this week. Wow, dude was using a spare ball with no holes in it at all.
Quick resurface, a quick shine, and no games, new in box, and just go ahead and sell it.
So clearly, putting holes in the spare ball key to better spare shooting. But all right, go ahead, continue.
Ryan Barnes finished 5th, who I was on the Ryan Barnes train.
Talked a lot about him
from day one. I was on the Ryan Barnes train. Yeah. I think Ryan Barnes, obviously having Chris, he's your ball rep, he was there. But that doesn't matter because if Chris Barnes was my ball rep, I probably still wouldn't have finished in the top 50, right? So Ryan's got, and he's only been bowling for how many years, Ryan? Like really seriously bowling. The kid's got so much talent, and it's scary how his first two steps look so much like his dad's, like Chris. Like their physical form is so similar, their first two steps, until obviously you see the two-handed. But it's just incredible. So yeah, Ryan was out of it too for the first couple days, right? Like he made a real big charge. I believe it was day 3, I think, or it was like that last block of game 2. But he was in, like, when I was checking, he was like in the 20s for a little bit. And he made a strong comeback. I believe it was the day 2 or 3. But so Ryan's 5th. Love seeing Kim Bowleby in 6th, right? We've had Kim on the show, right?
Veteran.
I felt so good for him, like when he made it, and at the end there, and it just seemed like he had such a monkey off his back, a piano off his back. Cam Crow, who I think has the most talent in the bowling upbringing, right? This kid has been successful in so many different levels as a youth. And just we'll talk about someone who's got the dog in him. I think Cam Crow has got the dog in him. Like, he's competitive, man. He's hype. And he's just, I think, going to be really good. I think he's just going to have to, obviously get some experience, but I like Cam Crow, and I like calling him Sam Crow, like the Sons of Anarchy. So whenever they said Cam Crow, I thought about Sons of Anarchy. I was like, man, I would use that as a nickname. Bailey Maverick finished right below Cam. What a game he's got, that kid. You get a chance to watch Bailey Maverick. I mean, that kid's got all the physical tools. I was the first time I was actually able to really sit down and watch Bailey, bowl, like really bowl. I didn't get a chance to watch him and really a lot of the other tournaments. And man, I was really impressed with Bailey Maverick's game. Nathan Bohr.
He's been out there for a little bit.
He has.
So
and
another
he's made some waves.
Guy.
He's made some waves here and there. You've seen his name.
Yeah.
Coming in. I believe he was going through PTQs last year, right? Nathan Bohr, right? Veteran, our age, bowled with him in college.
Probably the most grizzled veteran out there in the whole field.
Dude, he bowled
other than Arturo.
Yeah. Bowled against me in college for Wichita with Rob Rash. Bull has been bowling pretty much full time since. I mean, he's bowled everything for how many years? Just giving it a shot, never giving up, working at it, grinding. So him getting exempt probably was a huge highlight for him, right? Gives him another year to really try to make this work. Andrew Hall, who I know Andrew Hall, I met him a couple years ago at the USBC Championships. Great kid, great physical game. Glad to see him get through. If anybody knows Andrew, really, really nice kid. I was really happy for Andrew.
I bowled on his pair and next to his pair at a few events over the last couple of years. Not the type of game that I look at and say, oh, wow. But when you watch him bowl for a whole block, you realize, definitely a shot maker with enough power, right? Is the way I view his game.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about some of these styles and how they're going to be. Some of these guys that are making it are going to have a real challenge bowling against some of the tour guys, right? That are right now. They got their work cut out for them. Chase Nadu to me is probably one of the great stories from this one. Because he got his card last week. Obviously he had a good run at the Masters. I know Chase from Bowling the Tat, right? His dad I know his dad Dan, and Chase got his card a week before, ended up getting through PTQs, and then I believe got through PTQs and then made it, right? Another shot maker, Mike. Another someone who's a traditional right-hander shot maker too. So Andrew Chase, both shot makers, right? Nathan Bohr too, same thing, shot maker. And I think that's what shows you the 48 games across 4 different bowling centers, right? You need a lot of versatility And then finally, Chris Sloan, the Ireland, the guy who made waves, striking out not only in the last game of the qualifying in 48, but he also struck out in game 47. And was the guy who got a lot of crap about lofting the gutter, which I don't know where this crap is coming from, because people have been doing that for years. All of a sudden they're lofting the gutter and people want to hate for what? People have been doing that for how many years? But through some of the most amazing shots I've seen under pressure to make it, both in the 47th and 48th game, to get in. And so, yeah, great two-hander. Another one who's been out there for a little bit, right, Mike Sloan? He's been out there getting through his PTQ. So, yeah, that's the top 12, Mike. You want to talk about who you like for or you want to talk about people who didn't make it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several surprises out there, people that didn't make it.
Okay. I think we could agree on Brad Miller.
Nick Pate being one, Brad Miller being another. I didn't think Brad Miller would make it, and I was pretty clear about that on the last show. Nick Pate, I'm definitely surprised by. Definitely expected him to make it through this field. But other than those two names, I gotta say, there's nobody that really stuck out at me where I was like, oh wow, I can't believe that person didn't make it, or you would expect that person based on their level of experience and success to make it. Go ahead.
I was surprised that Cortez did make it. PBA Rookie of the Year, has all the talent in the world. If you were to ask me, out of those top 12, I would put Cortez above a lot of those guys that made it, honestly. And I might be a little biased because I'm friends with Cortez and I bowl in his area, and I see him on a week-to-week basis crushing the local sport shot tournaments out here. But has tend to have some success out on tour, has the experience now, and I think I was just a little bit surprised to see him in 25th. I think Wesley Lowe is another one who's I'm biased towards too, because I know him and he's friends of mine, and he helps me out here too. I would have liked to see him make more of a run too. I've been out there a while.
Now, given the way things went with the lefties, I would agree with you on Wesley Lowe.
Mm-hmm.
But going into the event, I feel like Wesley Lowe had been struggling out there for some time. There's something about what's going on with him that doesn't match up well with the what's going on tour and the
I'm gonna be honest,
conditions, etc.
No, there's one factor here. There's one factor here, and people might not like what I'm about to say, but it's the fact that Wesley is throwing motive.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's really hurting him. And there's really only one reason. It's not the motive performance balls, because the motive performance balls are fine, right? EJ Tackett makes it work. AJ Johnson makes it work. It's the fact that Wesley can't throw a black hammer or pitch black. And the motive doesn't have the best. The motive doesn't have the best urethanes, right? They don't. For it's just a fact. I don't see a lot of motive people having a lot of success with their urethane balls or their hybrids or whatever they're going to call it. I bet you if Wesley was allowed to throw a 78 hammer, I bet you he would have had more success this week. It's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, especially for the lefties, because that's where their bread and butter was.
Correct.
Or like on the low short pattern. Yeah. So. Okay, so out of the guys that made it, Rob, anybody you like to say, this person's going to have, a lot of success going forward?
Ryan Barnes.
Okay.
I think Ryan Barnes wins Rookie of the Year. I do. Okay. With his dad being there with him, he's already has the right people around him. Right, he's got the Wichita pedigree, his physical game, two-hander, high rev rate. I'm not putting any lefties into this conversation because the left side hasn't been very good on tour, except for maybe a few few weeks.
The
World Series. But other than that, it's hard for me to talk about Stipich, Runk, or any of the lefties that made it. Cam Crow, I think they're going to have a day unless something changes out there. They'll have their week or two. They normally do, but out right now on tour, I'm not going to give it to any lefties. I will definitely talk more Bailey Maverick. It was super impressive.
Larry P's upset at you in the chat, bro.
About what?
He's saying 25% of the exempt field is left-handed. What the F are you saying right now?
About what? What are you talking about?
Well, he's saying you say that you said, oh, the lefties don't have it a lot out there, and
I'm
it's
talking
not
the
real
national
good for
tour.
them. He is. That's what he's talking about. He's saying that 14 of all the exempt guys for next year are lefties. So he's saying out of the ones who made it through tour trials, there's other additional lefties who made it through their bowling last year. So how bad could they have been? I think that's his point, right? They must have been good on the left because lefties made it and they make up 14 out of 25% of the exempt field. But I'll be honest with you, Larry, I disagree with you too. I think what you're not seeing is that a lot of those points were gathered during the World Series.
Right.
And the World Series alone. And
right.
if you took out the World Series, there might be 0 exempt lefties other than the guys who qualified through tour trials. I don't know either, but I'm saying the lefties ran them over at the World Series.
They did.
Okay? There were lefties that made multiple shows, and that was the only time you saw them all season. Okay?
Well, that's my point. My point is just from watching the whole season as a whole, it just seems the lefties only have it certain parts, but the righties. And even the fact, Mike, that the lefties had it at the World Series, EJ still dominated the World Series.
Yeah,
he still ended up beating all the lefties out of there. It just shows you how good EJ is.
Yeah, and I'm commenting more so on the idea of the points, right, and how that contributed to the exempt to that number of lefties being in the exempt field. Because let's be honest, the World Series had a lot to do with who made it to the exempt field and who didn't.
Yeah,
it was a bunch of events in 1 week, and the lefties ran them over. So, Larry, I don't think that you can lose sight of that. I'll be honest. I think that, that was a huge story last year when it went down, Rob. I mean, that was all we talked about that World Series week was the domination of the lefties. Yeah. But, okay, so I guess that brings us to our next point here, which is the controversies about this week. Right, because there's always controversies in bowling,
which makes our job easier.
You're never going to run a bowling tournament and have all the bowlers happy. That goes without saying. So, I guess I don't even know where you want to go with it, but there were 2 main controversies, right?
Okay.
One controversy was the lefties have it too easy. Okay, that was one main controversy.
I think it kind of evened out a little bit within the last few days, I think.
Okay, and I love that point. I agree with you 100%. So much so that I think the PBA made a mistake in the arrangement of the patterns in this tournament.
They didn't know. I think they just got unlucky.
But logic tells you, it doesn't take much to understand that if you go short, medium, long, the lefties are likely to get an early advantage, right? So
right.
That would drive me crazy. Having to now climb up that mental hill because you're behind the 8 ball to start after the first 2 days. Even if I know that the pattern that I'm really comfortable on is coming, it's still hard to overcome that. So that was the one controversy. And my answer to that would have been to go short pattern, long pattern, medium pattern, long pattern. Right. So, I don't see too much controversy in that in and of itself, other than the way the arrangement of the patterns there. Urethane was playable. Oh, shocker! I mean, it's playable everywhere all the time. It seems, even with the 78U, it's still playable. Everybody said it's going to take them out of play. It ain't taking them out of play. Okay, so that was a big factor, but that's been a big factor for numerous years now, so that's not really anything new.
Well, while we're on this topic,
the other controversy is guys who don't throw it that good getting beat up on social media because they're bowling well and they don't throw it that good. And I'll say, I mean, mainly we're talking about Tim Cagle. We're talking about a guy who has a basketball type release. If you've never seen him throw it, he throws it up the left side of the lane, but it's a basketball type release. And yeah, a lot of people were hammering him on social media because he doesn't throw it good, but he was up there in the standings. I think for the first couple days, he ended up falling out. But
jealousy and hatred. Okay. And I saw some comments from some people, right, that you and me both know that you probably could tell, where they were talking about how like they want to keep arm swing integrity in the game. Okay. And I'm a bowling traditionalist too. I mean, look, I don't like some of the new advancements in the game, meaning like I don't like the really the urethane handcuff to a certain extent. I've talked about it as a fan too. For the people, it tends to be boring to watch, and there doesn't seem a lot of physical adjustments when it comes to using urethane. It's just, I've talked about that on record saying it's a handicap, urethane. But for people to get on social media after this kid is leading or in the top 5 of a PBA tournament, that he's bowling 48 games on 4 different bowling centers on 4 different patterns and is leading and up there in the standings, Mike, for people to not be bowling, sitting back and like criticizing, like saying like his form is being like illegal. Yeah, Mike, we've talked about people having their forms, and we've talked about like not liking the way they throw the ball, but to discredit him of what he's doing, I think is just a bunch of haters and jealousy. And I don't mind it. If you can't, like, if you really think it's illegal, or you don't think it should be in the game, then I feel like, well, you should just do it or just not bowl. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it was just a lot of just jealousy and haters, essentially.
I'm going to say 2 things here. I'm going to leave it at that. First thing I'm going to say is this. I bowl on sports stuff a lot. I bowl on PBA patterns a lot. I don't compete at PBA level, but I bowl on PBA patterns quite frequently. And I have never encountered a PBA pattern, or a sport pattern for that matter, where you can throw it like garbage, not repeat it, not hit what you're looking at, not be consistent with your roll, speed, release, etc., whatever that release may be, okay? Where you can be inconsistent with those things and still have success. Okay? So to me, as someone who has bowled on this stuff, a lot, if you are scoring on those conditions, those types of conditions, I don't care what you're doing something right. You're doing something right. Now, what that something is can sometimes be debatable. Maybe you have the right ball in the right part of the lane and it looks really good, and that's why you're scoring well. Maybe you're repeating it really well, and that's why you're scoring well. Maybe you're hitting what you're looking at, and that's why you're scoring well. But there's no sport pattern or PBA pattern out there that I've ever encountered where you can throw it inconsistently, throw it poorly, and have a lot of success. Would you agree with that, Rob?
I would.
Okay. So then when you look at a guy like Cagle, if he's scoring on those patterns, he's doing something, probably more than one thing, right. Okay. And I'm not going to knock that. I'm not going to knock that because I certainly go out and struggle on that stuff. And my form and the way I throw it, a lot of people, if you put me next to him, would say that, oh, my form is much better than his. So it's certainly not about that. Okay. Second thing I want to say here is, I think a lot of this attitude in the bowling community is born out of the house shots.
Oh God,
I do. I'm serious. Listen, because when you bowl on house shots, you have a lot of times, this is a normal occurrence. You have somebody who throws it, well, they might think pretty good, throws it pretty good, gets beat by somebody who throws it terribly. Let's be honest. Person's all over the place. Release is terrible. Everything's varied, and they just find a way to shoot 269 because the lanes are that easy and their ball matches up and it happens, right? So what does the better bowler in that instance always go back to? Oh, well, I throw it better than them. That guy doesn't throw it as good as me. I'm going to be honest with you. I find myself saying the same thing bowling in my house league when I get beat by somebody for a game. I find myself saying, well, what does it matter that I got beat by him? I throw it 100 times better than this guy does, right? So I think that, that this is almost ingrained in the bowling community at this point, where you have this attitude from the house shots of like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you score. You also have to, quote unquote, throw it good. Well, let me tell you something about bowling on the tougher stuff. If you're scoring, you're throwing it good. There's no debating between the two, in my opinion. If you're scoring, you're throwing it good. On house, again, you could be scoring, but a lot of people in the back will be saying, "Oh, that guy sucks. He doesn't throw it good. We throw it good, but he doesn't throw it good." Now sit here and tell me this doesn't go on, okay? Sit here and tell me that this attitude isn't prevalent in the bowling community and hasn't been prevalent for years. Dion, I see you in the chat. That's Poppy from Twitter. What's up, bro? I'm glad you're joining us. Tell me I'm wrong, bro. Tell me I'm wrong. Casey saying they don't give out bonus pins for throwing it good. No, brother, I feel you. I feel you. But there's a lot of people in the bowling community with that attitude. Yeah, and Mr. Doubleby says, sarcastically, I imagine, and you're repeating shot after shot. No, that person isn't either. The person who throws it good isn't repeating it either. You're right. That's the irony of it, right? But I do, Rob, I'm not lying to you. I feel like this attitude of, well, he bowled good, but he doesn't throw it good is almost ingrained in the bowling community at this point. And it sucks because on the tough stuff, if you scored, you threw it good. I don't care if you kicked it down the lane. You did something I couldn't do. You figured out a way to strike I couldn't figure out.
Yeah, but there's also a social media keyboard warrior also effect of this whole thing where it's just so easy just to sit back and criticize people for not throwing it good when they're having success, especially at the top level. And it's, a little bit, to me, different criticizing someone for not throwing it good that's having, or in your mind, that doesn't throw it good or throw it the traditional way. Because this is like definitely a different style of a two-handed delivery, right? Than the normal two-handed. I've seen this before Kegel. I've seen this. If anybody knows Matt Jones, who lives in California, he had that, I call it like the fireball technique, I call it. Like it reminds me of like Ryu from Street Fighter with the throwing the fireball. But if you watch it in the way he throws it in slow motion, it's different. And I think people just when they see different, they get crazy and they don't know how to react. And a lot of people don't do different, especially a lot of the old traditionalist bowlers or fans.
Now, with all that said, okay, because Casey Mattingly in the chat, what's up, Casey, is asking, did we see Barnes come out and defend the masses about the doesn't throw it good? No, that doesn't throw it good. I didn't see that. No,
I saw it. It was just a post about it. It's a good read to go back for Chris to watch.
I saw Robert Smith's post about it. In his post, he commented that people felt the same way about him. I don't know about that, Robert. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know if I agree that when people saw him throw the ball, they thought he was disrespecting game. When I saw him throw the ball, I pooped my pants and then went to go practice for 6 hours to try and throw it.
Just wait till I beat him. Just wait till I beat him, and he's gonna.
It's gonna be legendary.
People are gonna be calling him a disgrace again. That's what my post was on social media.
Anyway. But when it comes to the tougher conditions, listen. Anybody who bowls well on those for an extended amount of games, I tip my cap to you, bro. I don't care how you're throwing it down the lane. I tip my cap to you. Okay. Now, with all that said, I'm going to add this caveat. Okay. People are going to get mad at me here, but I'm going to add this caveat to everything that I said there. I think the PBA needs to make them tougher.
Well, that was another
I
controversy
do.
that
I think something needs to change, Rob.
that was another
Something needs to change.
controversy. J.R. Raymond was very, very outspoken about the scores being too high. And it was at one time it was like 240 was leading and like 227 was like 12. So I don't know.
I don't know, man. I just feel like for the professional level, for the best of the best, the most elite in the world, I want to see them tougher. I want to see these guys challenged more. And you know what? Brian in the chat is saying ban urethane. I'm not going to go that far, Brian, but I will say I'd like to see patterns develop that make it impossible to use it. You know, put something out there. I don't care how extreme it has to be, that makes it impossible to use it. You know, or at least makes it an ineffective tool, right? But yeah, I'm just Rob. I'm really tired of watching this ridiculous scoring pace. Where like if you're not averaging 235 or better, you really don't have a chance. You know, and I really would. Did I cut out?
You
Sorry,
cut
I
out a
cut out.
little bit, but
I would love to see the PBA take steps to do whatever they have to do to give these guys a new set of challenges.
yeah, I agree with the like. I don't think that they needed to like put out a really, really tough flat patterns for all 4 days.
No,
Uh,
me either.
I think though I would have loved to seen a definitely scores being lower. I would have liked to see leading be around like 215 to 220. I think would have been fine with me, and I would like to see like 12th being somewhere in the two teens. I think. I look. That's a lot of bowling though for these guys. 48 games at 4 different bowling centers to be like absolutely brutal and be on like flat U.S. Open type patterns all 4 days. I think that I would, I don't mind having one day of high scoring, 2 middle scoring days, and 1 really low scoring days. But I saw some outspoken complaints from guys like J.R. Raymond, and I don't necessarily agree with his complaints because I feel like everybody's bowling on it. I could understand the lefty righty like takes after the first couple days, but I feel like they just need to be fair across the board. But then after 4 days, I still look back at the way the qualifying ended and the entry and who made it. And I still feel like they weren't that bad, the left and the right, comparatively. Like when you look at the people who made it. If like 7 out of the 12 were lefty, then I would have had a big problem. But how many lefties made it, Mike? Was it 3 total? Hayden, Brandon, Cam, yeah, we're the only 3 lefties to make it out of 12. I feel like that's a close to a 1 in 4.5 or 1 in 5 ratio. So I feel like the left and right actually was decently fair. If
No,
you
you
look at
got
the
Kim
final field.
Kim
Oh,
Bowleby.
Bowleby. I'm sorry. People don't criticize. Here we go. Oh, everyone's going to be
Is
in
there
their
one more? I feel like you should read me the list again.
Hayden, Brandon, Bowleby, Cam were the 4 lefties. Sloan, Nadu righty, Hall righty, Bohr righty, Maverick righty.
Okay.
Barnes righty, Foy righty. So 4 lefties. So what is that? 1 in 3. So yeah, the left had it a little bit better, but I don't think it was that bad. I don't.
I just speak about the lane conditions because I would like to see the best bowlers in the world encounter different challenges. Like I remember the first time they put out the Badger pattern. That was at that time it was like the longest pattern they had ever put out. And I remember watching on Extra Frame the qualifying for that pattern. And I remember seeing balls go down the lane and the balls never turned left for the righties. They never turned left. They were playing like a fade backup to start on the fresh. And I thought to myself, like, yeah, this is something I want to watch. Like, this is something different. This is a challenge that they don't often see. Now, obviously, they see that more. They've seen that challenge more over the years with those type of patterns and longer patterns now. But Yeah, somebody's got to go outside the box and try and come up with something that's gonna challenge these guys. But all right, Rob, I know you got to wrap it up because you got a fantasy football draft coming up, if I'm correct. Yes.
Big draft too. So my
Okay.
big
All right. So we got to wrap it up. What do we have time for? Just worst of the week, or do we have time for league review real quick?
Yeah, we can go through it. Yeah, we got
All
time.
right. So league review, I shot 740 or 750
Oh,
on
nice.
Monday.
It's not
Yeah.
bad.
I should have shot about 840. Once again, like every game, there was one or two shots where I just lost concentration and threw it bad and didn't strike. They weren't as bad as the previous week. I actually was clean for all 30 this week, so no out the window shots with splits or whatever, but just not executing to my full ability. Went front 8 the last game and then got up in the 9th frame and threw it terribly and yanked it and left a 2-pin because that's how easy they are. You pull it left and miss right. Mr. X and Mr. 250 had to be separated, almost coming to blows this past week, because Mr. X's team actually took Mr. 250's team to the woodshed to basically lock up the league. Okay, I mean it was an ugly ass kicking from what I heard, and there was a lot of smack talking going on, and I think the smack talking got a little out of hand. And I think there was some yelling and hollering and fracas, if you will, coming from down on their pair. And yeah, I heard that there was like a little back and forth and people had to be separated a little bit. So I don't know. Tomorrow night's our last night of league. I was thinking maybe I need to take the night off and go be a bouncer down between Mr. X and Mr. 250 and make sure that nobody's getting into it on this final night of league. So, but listen, both teams have been accused of sandbagging again, so keep that in mind too. All right.
love it.
But yeah, I shot 740 something, and
Nice.
I bowled pretty good. The ball, I got the right ball now. I got the right ball. For this place, there's no question I got the right ball. Every time I hit the hole, this ball carries. I've only left 2 10 pins in the last.
What ball? What the people know ball is.
Archetype hybrid.
Okay.
Archetype hybrid. Polished.
Ooh.
Polished, heavy polish on it. Okay, archetype hybrid. Get one if you want to bowl good in your house leagues.
There you go. I'll take 10. I'll take 10.
I gotta put the Patch Pirate plug out there, son. You know that.
I'll take 10 of them.
We're going quickly here. Rob, your match against Robert Smith is official.
It is official. Best out of 5, 1,500. It is going down on Thursday, October 17th. It is going to be late West Coast time, which means a lot of people on the East Coast will probably have to rewatch it when they get up, unless they stay up like maniacs to watch it.
I'm staying up. I'm taking off the next day. I'm first day in work. I'm putting in for October 16th personal.
No, you have to put it for the 19th. It's the Friday, the 19th or the 18th. Anyway, we'll be bowling after the sweeper. Yeah, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's giving me some motivation to get on the lanes and really start bowling. I actually have a lesson with Mark Baker planned next month. I'm going to be out in California for a weekend. And I figured, let me get a little bit polished. You see what I did there. But yeah, it's good for me to get back on the lanes. I bowled a quick tournament this weekend. It was a match play tournament for the Agent Ong Open. Sport shot, best 3 out of 5, first round match play. Won my first match, shot about 700, bowled 270 something. Won the pot, was playing right with the not urethane, which I really like that ball, controls. And then I bowled a 2-hander, pretty good bowler out of I'm not sure where he's from, and he took me to the woodshed 2 straight games. Had no reaction, move left, try to make it work, and I just couldn't. 180, but I was happy the way I threw the ball. Ultimately, I think I missed 2 spares in like 5 games, and it just happened to be like on the last game of the night. So I was really clean making spares. Yeah. So I'll start practicing a little bit more. I got a little bit of time to work myself into shape so I don't get completely embarrassed bowling Robert, but we all know I won't. So anyway, if anybody out there is going to be there or taking side bets, if you're going to bet on me and I'm putting this out there, please make sure you get odds. Do not bet even money against Robert Smith. I'm just letting you guys know right now. Like, That's not smart money, okay? This guy's a 7-time PBA champion. He's won a U.S. Open. He's bowling me who I've won nothing. And I really think I'm probably I should be a plus 500 or plus 600 underdog bowling him. But you never know, Mike. All you need is a chip in a chair. And if I have a good reaction and I'm throwing it good, I can compete. And I know this. So that's all that really matters, is that I know I could be at least compete. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Ultimately, the goal is to prepare for the TAT in January, because that's really the tournament I want to win. The progressive is huge right now. It's over 100,000. First place is going for like 25 grand. So that's the ultimate tournament for me to prepare for in January. So yeah, so that's a little bit about what happened with me. So
all right, let's give the people what they want, son, and wrap it up
Let's
so you
do
can
it.
get to your draft.
Let's do it.
People want you to plug the stream for your match. Perhaps if it is stream, maybe I could jump on there and do a little commentary while you're bowling. Yeah, we should try to figure that out.
It's going to be streamed, and there will be commentary to the stream. It's going to be on the Agent Ong Open Facebook stream.
Okay.
Here's the kicker, though. They will be miking me.
Okay.
And the miking will be actually, I believe, on a different page, because they don't want the sponsors of the tournament to leave the tournament based on me and being mic'd up. And Carl, who's the promoter of the tournament, says Storm will be showing the stream. So Storm will be showing that match. Great. Now I know a lot more people are going to be watching.
I hope Storm has a beep button. I hope Storm has a mute button.
No, they're not going to be miking me. Storm's not going to. The miking will be separate. You'll be able to watch the stream and listen to me bowling on a mic, Mike.
Okay.
Me mic'd up, bowling an action match.
I need to be commentating on that stream.
Yes, 100%.
That's the one I need to be on.
Because I will be unfiltered. And if you want to talk about Joe Grondin being mic'd up, this could be just as bad. And me being mic'd up, know that I will definitely make it as entertaining as possible. And there might be a future of me bowling action matches being mic'd up. I think I might go down that road, future state for our podcast.
Bro, I wish I could come up, bro. Believe me. All right, worst of the week, Rob. Here's my worst of the week. My worst of the week this week is going to the 220 average house bowler.
Okay.
You know the YouTube page, 220 average house bowler?
Yes,
okay?
You talk about him a lot.
My worst of the week is going out to him. Okay. Shout out to you, bro. He made a clear bowling ball. Okay, he made it himself. A 100% clear bowling ball. It's not the first time this dude has made a bowling ball himself, but this one was a completely clear bowling ball. And then, the invisible ball, as Speed Ra is saying in the chat. And then, Rob, do you want to know what this dude did? He turned around online and he's trying to sell the ball for $220.
Yeah, that's worst of the week.
A perfectly clear homemade ball for $220, bro.
Own a piece of history,
rocks, bro. Kick rocks, bro. I wouldn't give you $22 for a homemade, totally clear ball. I wouldn't give you $22, let alone $220.
Well, Mike, what was his sales pitch? You could own a piece of history for
I don't even know. I don't know what the sales pitch is, but
anyway. All right, let me get to my worst of the week. So this, I normally won't pull from this page. The page from Facebook is Amateur Bowling Staff Tips and Knowledge, because I feel like there should never be worst of the week on an amateur page. Like, I feel like people, you're an amateur, right? There's a lot of things you don't know, whatever. But this guy took the cake. His name was Michael Nicholas Magbaletta, and I believe this is the same person who I got into it a little bit of trolling this group. I think he's a little bit of a troll. But anyway, this was his post. Walked into a pro shop to get my new Storm the Road drilled. Employee there gave me a song and dance saying they cannot drill it. Parentheses, thumbless unhanded, or thumbless one-handed, because they need to watch me bowl. It doesn't have any holes yet. Determine my PAP or any technical factors, ? Was the poor chap jealous I earned the PBA membership back in the day, or racially motivated as we're both of Filipino descent? But I was born here and he wasn't, which is because they resent and discriminate against American-born Filipinos. This guy just went on a rant. I simply requested a storm drilling I saw on their website, pin up over the ring finger for that specific ball, and said it wasn't my idea, but rather manufacture specs for my type of rev and speed game. Simple enough. He then ignored me and assisted the next person in line. Yeah, because you were probably a crazy man. Bad customer service by that employee at Lodi Lanes in Lodi, New Jersey. So he called out the pro shop in Lodi and then said the PBA pro unfortunately was not there and he would have drilled it with no problem. So if you know the pro shop guy who works at Lodi, who's not the pro there, this guy blasted you for being racially motivated, as well as he was very jealous of you that he had his PBA card back in the day. So yeah, he was jealous that you averaged over 200 for 3 years and you sent your entry to the PBA to get your membership online.
Well, in reality, I mean, the pro shop guy in this instance was trying to like go
Help
above
him.
and beyond for the customer, right?
I know. And this guy just
people
didn't
don't
know
even
what he was doing.
realize that. That's
I know,
crazy.
it's
I
so
know the
wild.
people. I know the people at Lodi who run the shop up there, and they're
So
good.
go in there next time you're there.
They're good. I mean, it's one of the quality pro shops in New Jersey for sure.
Yep.
So I don't.
Yep.
I feel that post is completely off base. Not to mention, the person that owns the shop there, I believe, identifies as minority themselves. So, yeah, person's probably a little bit off base there. But yeah, not something that I've ever seen or heard in reference to that particular.
Crazy
shop.
what's going on in today's day, Mike. All right, Mike, let's wrap this up.
Let's do it. My final thought this week, Rob, is not really specifically bowling related. My daughter played in a soccer tournament this weekend, so we had 4 soccer games over the weekend. And I just want to say, like, sports parents need to chill. Sports parents need to chill. There was a fracas after one of the games. Some words were had. You'd be proud of me, bro. I wasn't involved in it at all.
Oh.
I literally did not say a word. I wanted to, Rob. I wanted to get fully involved, bro. Big Mike fully involved, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let this one pass. I'm gonna let these dudes take the reins here and have their little argument and whatnot. But yeah, one of the parents on the sidelines, was really like, I'm gonna use the word taunting. It was like taunting our team and our players, and they won the game. And I mean, it was like whatever. It's a 12-year-old soccer game, 11-year-old soccer game, but it was just annoying to hear the taunting. And then of course words are said, and then words are said back, and yeah, everybody needs to chill. Everybody needs to chill.
Crazy, yeah. Parents, they could do a whole documentary out somewhere out there on like parents that just take it to a whole other level. All right, Mike. My final
thought, Rob.
Yeah,
focused on your draft here, I hope.
Yeah, I got it. I've done enough research and I have enough strategy here to get through.
What pick do you have?
Well, it's a keeper league. Do you hear it? Did that it just started? I was reading the 11frame.com with Wriggles, and he was talking about Lane Talk is now doing a streaming for the Lucky Larson Masters on YouTube.
Yeah,
so I'd be interested with Randy Peterson as well as who was doing the third the second.
I didn't
Randy
see
Peterson.
Who's doing the comments. Verity, isn't it Verity?
Verity's the reporter, and Dave Ryan and Randy Peterson are doing the commentary for the one day. So that should be something.
And I think from what I read on that, like Lane Talk is offering that as a service to like any tournament that wants to stream. I think for free or behind a paywall of some kind. So it'll be interesting to see what develops out of that. But all right, Rob, listen, we appreciate all the people joining us. We want to get you out of here for your draft. Hit us up on social media. He's at Brooklyn Rob 11. I'm at the 215th. We do most of our social media stuff on Twitter, now known as X. Email us, sweeptherack@gmail. PBA League coming up. That's the next thing I believe on the schedule. So we'll keep an eye out for that in a couple weeks. But for the time being, bowling season's over until pretty much January. So we'll still be here. Our night may be adjusted, so tune in with us going forward. I'm thinking Sunday nights might be the night that we're doing things here, but we'll keep the people updated on that as well. And as always, we appreciate everybody joining us. We appreciate everybody being in the chat. We appreciate Tim Foy for stopping in. Shout to him again. And we'll see everybody next week.
All right, guys. Take care, everybody. Peace.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.